meeting and call to order. First thing we need to do is we need an invitation and ask for Travis Scott.
We all stand, please. Pray. Father God in heaven, we thank you for this time together as a community, Lord. We lift you up as we serve you, Lord. We pray that you be with those that are on the street, Lord, that perhaps do not have shelter in this cold weather, Father. We lift our community up to you at this time, Lord. For it is in your name we do your work. We pray that you give us the right thoughts to do things in your honor, Lord, and as fairness in our community to each. I want to say a special thank you for the young people with us tonight, Lord, and their accomplishment, Lord, as they have academically achieved, as well as with elective activities, been very successful, Lord. I just pray that you'll bless them and be with them on their journey as they begin their careers in the very near future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now for invocation. Ask the Boy Scouts Nathan and Noah Keisner of Troop 95 to come up and do it. Pledge.
Will you please join me in closing?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to be made to this agenda?
Yes, sir. Mayor Lamp, I'd like to add a new business item to make it business items 7 and 8. Tim Johnson, Smithfield Recreation and Aquatic Center, for 2 budgeted part-time positions to be approved tonight.
So you like to remove item 7 from the consent agenda and add that to new business, is that?
Yes, sir, that's fine. We can do that. Remove item 7 from the consent agenda. We can approve all 3 in the business item or discuss all 3. There's 3 part-time positions right now currently open. 2 came open after the agenda had been prepared and finalized.
So off the consent agenda, we're going to remove items 7 and 8.
Yes, sir. And add as new business items is number 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, but just for clarification, we're not removing item 8, are we? That has to do with the police department? Office consent agenda?
No, we're not moving
So-
that.
So remove 7.
That's right, remove 7.
Okay.
7, just 7 only.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? I believe the next thing on our business is a proclamation for the Smithfield Selma Senior High School Marching Band.
Thank you, Mayor. There are many rewards to being on the town council. We have very short meetings. We're paid very well. But the greatest reward that we get to do as a council is what we're privileged to do tonight. That is to honor a teacher and a group of students at our high school who have reached a pinnacle of success in their endeavors. And at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Jones, Mr. Brian Jones, and the members of his band, if they would come to the front. And Mayor Lampy, I have a lot to say, but I'll try to be succinct in my remarks. Approximately a year and a half ago, I was included on a series of emails. And those emails contained information about activities of the band, their practices, the work they needed to do. And following each of those emails, and I still get those emails, following each of those emails was a quote. And the quote is this, and I'm going to read it. The greatest pride of all is being a part of something you could never do alone. The greatest pride of all is being a part of something you could never do alone. That's a quote by Coach K. And since that first email, I've thought a lot about that quote and what it means. And I think that quote could be our motto on this council. I think it could be all of our mottos. But more importantly, since that first email, I've had the privilege to observe incredible levels of passion, enthusiasm, hard work, teamwork, encouragement from a band director towards his students, encouragement from students to fellow students, all for the purpose of succeeding as individuals and succeeding as a group. Now, bear in mind, when you think of a band, Mr. Jones doesn't pick his band, they pick him. He doesn't have the opportunity to pick the best of the best. Any student who wants to participate is allowed to participate. They just have to buy into this concept of work hard, do the work. And they've done that work. And Brian Jones' success as a band director at Triple S and the 2013 Spartan Regiment is well documented. And I just want to read some of the accomplishments from 2013. September 28th, Cleveland competition, second place in the 4A class. October 5th, the Clinton competition, second place in the 6A class. October 12th, West Johnson competition, first place, 3A class. October 19th, Fuquay Arena competition, first place, class 5A. Also were grand champions in that competition. November 2nd, Cape Fear competition, first place, class 5A, grand champions 4A and 5A, and also the Colt Classic Championship Cup winners. And it all reached a pinnacle on November 9th at the U.S. Band's National Championship in Newark, New Jersey. First place, Group 4 Open National Champions. National champions right here in Smithfield. On behalf of the town of Smithfield and the citizens of this great town, I thank each of you for your hard work and how you've represented yourself, what you've accomplished for yourself, but also in how you've represented your community. And I would like to read this proclamation. And the proclamation is sort of lengthy because we had a lot to say about our school and about you guys. So y'all bear with me. And I contain some historical references in here too. Whereas since September 1969, Smithfield-Selma Senior High School has been a beacon of hope and a shining star of the Smithfield-Selma community, providing educational and extracurricular opportunities for the education and development of young people in the community. And whereas Smithfield-Selma Senior High has been blessed with many talented, dedicated, and hardworking individuals, both faculty and students, over the years who have reflected well on themselves, the school, and the community. And whereas Smithfield-Selma Senior High School has a rich tradition of high-quality music programs and music leaders, including a marching band under the direction of John R. Doc Winley, for whom the band facility is named. And whereas Smithfield-Selma Senior High has been blessed with music teachers and leaders who possess the gift of Spartan spirit for teaching, motivating, inspiring passion, and bringing a diversity of students together to accomplish something greater than they could do alone. Whereas since 2003, Brian Jones has been an inspirational leader, teacher, and role model for the students at Smithfield-Selma Senior High School. And whereas Brian Jones' dedication, passion, discipline, and Spartan spirit has inspired his students to work hard, to work with passion, to work with dedication, and to work together. And whereas the students of the 2000 Spartan Regiment, under the direction and leadership of Brian Jones, have worked hard, worked with passion, worked with dedication, and worked together to accomplish something greater than they could have done alone. And whereas the hard work has been evident with the many awards at local and regional band competitions, culminating in the first place finish in the U.S. Band's National Championships at MetLife Stadium, Newark, New Jersey on November 9, 2013, with the 2013 Spartan Regiment earning the distinction of National Champions. And whereas Brian Jones and the students comprising the 2013 Spartan Regiment are a credit to themselves, their school, and the community, and are worthy of recognition for their efforts. Now therefore I, Emery Ashley, for our mayor, John H. Lampy, the second mayor of the town of Smithfield, the town council, and the citizens of Smithfield, do hereby express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to Brian Jones and the students of the 2000 Spartan Regiment for their hard work, passion, and dedication to excellence. We're going to get that in presentable fashion and get it to you. We'll get it to you in the next few days, okay? I'd also like to present each of y'all with a pen. This is a town of Smithfield pen. Let's give them another round of applause. We look forward to it. More to come. Thank y'all for being here.
Next on our presentations, the Johnson County Visitors Bureau has a Wayfair assessment, and Donna Bailey Taylor is going to give us an update on it.
Thank you, Mayor Langby. I brought to you tonight an information packet on a wayfinding sign system assessment for the town of Smithfield. This project goes back a few years, but the Tourism Authority has created a wayfinding task force group to meet and to do an assessment on the current wayfinding or the signing system currently in place to help visitors as well as residents and people moving to our town find things that are of interest to them, whether it's visitor attractions, public parking, town hall, parks and recreation facilities, whatnot. The company would come in and do an assessment, give us a report, look at what we currently have in place, actually do some schematic drawings for us to look at implementing at a future date, and wanted to, oh, you can't hear me. We met in December, and Paul asked that I come to the town council and see if there might be some questions or somebody on town council that would like to serve on our task force, and wanted to open up for any questions you might have of us. Usually who's going to pay for it is a question I get, but the Tourism Authority and the 2% occupancy tax is paying for the project.
Donna, I don't have any questions, but are you asking for one of the town council people to be?
If there's interest, we'd be glad to keep you in the loop on emails, as well as invite you to a series of meetings we'll be having in January and February.
Well, let us talk among ourselves. We'll
Okay.
find
It's a
out.
short commitment.
And the signage, are they just going to go out the new roads that we're doing around the...
Yes, it would connect every gateway into Smithfield, 70A, Market Street, out to 301, all the way to 95. So it would pull everything together with a cohesive sign plan for the entire town.
What representative do you currently have from the town? Is any staff involved in this?
Staff is currently involved, yes, sir.
Mayor, I'd be interested in helping with that project.
Travis, I accept your interest in... Do I have a...
I'll make a motion to appoint
I'll second that.
Councilman Scott to the committee.
Any discussion on that motion second? All in favor, say aye.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Donna. All right. Third on our presentations is the Friends of the Park fundraising event. Tim Johnson.
Earl is actually supposed to be here, but he's retired, so he must have knocked off. He really retired. He's going out of town, out of the country, I think Thursday, so he's got his mind on that, I think. And I hate that because I thought it'd be appropriate to recognize him as his years of service with DSS. But anyway, basically, it was just to report back the annual fundraiser that the Friends of the Park group does, which benefits, or the money goes to the town to help with the debt service on the Recreation Aquatic Center. And this year we raised a little over $20,000 at that event, which is about $3,000 more than we have in the past. And so that's really all there was to that, just to kind of report back to the council on the success of that event. Number 4, Mr. Mayor.
That sounds good. If you're here, let's talk about who donated the benches for the giveaway.
One group, the Appearance Commission, and a group, the Christmas Bells, through with Lenny Branch's help, donated 4 benches along the Greenway. And I just thought that that's probably close to a $5,000, $4,000 or $5,000 donation. And for that, I felt like they needed some recognition for that. Appreciate all they do for the town of Smithfield, and many of his guys went out and put those up. And then also like to recognize Martin Tetro with Central Johnston Rotary Club. Sure, come on. They applied, I'll let Martin just tell you a little bit about that. They applied for a grant. They also put 4 benches and 2 trash receptacles along the Greenway. And so pretty much now, from one end to the other, the 3-mile stretch, we have plenty of benches and receptacles. And again, that was about a $5,000 donation. They did some landscaping also. And again, just thought it was prudent to recognize these groups for their donation to the town. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the grant process.
I'm actually using some of the funds that we raised through the Three Little Pigs Triathlon that's held at the Aquatic Center. We applied for a grant through Rotary International and through our local district, and it's a matching grant, so whatever we put in, we get an equal amount back, up to a certain amount of money that's set at each year. And so taking the money that we made locally, we reinvested it locally and got the benches and installed them. And about the only requirement is it has to be something that's permanent. That's why we thought the benches were great for the Greenway. And there has to be Rotarian involvement, so that's why we were all out there installing the benches and mixing up satcrete and putting landscaping in. So they look nice.
Which Rotary Club is this?
This is Central Johnson, the Thursday lunch group.
Well, as a guy who walks the trail every day, I'd like to thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I think they look great. Appreciate it.
All right, at this time, we're going to go into the public hearing part of the agenda. If there's anybody here who's going to speak during the public hearing time, you just stand up now, and our clerk, Shannon's going to swear you in. So anybody who'd like to speak during the public hearing, I think you might want to speak. Now's the time to stand up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, before we enter into this one, I'm gonna need a motion and a second pertaining to this first public hearing that's coming up.
I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You want me to read the whole thing, or are you going to do it?
I can go ahead and take care of the introduction too.
I'll let you do that too.
Okay. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate an automobile sales lot on a 6.05 acre tract of land located in the B3 zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the west side of the intersection of West Market Street, approximately 350 feet south of the intersection with Wilson Mills Road. To reference you to where the property is, this is US 70 West. This is Wilson Mills Road. The property under consideration is right here immediately behind the cemetery. Going on with the staff report. The project location, again, is on the west side of West Market Street, approximately 350 feet south of the intersection with Wilson Mills Road. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit to allow for automobile sales lot on property located within the B3 zoning district. The acreage is 6.05. The zoning is B3. It presently is an unimproved gravel lot that was previously a manufactured home sales lot. The proposed use will be an automobile sales lot. The reason why the petition is before you, in order to have automobile sales in the town of Smithfield, it has to be by conditional use permit granted by the town council. Environmentally, the proposed automobile sales lot will not be located within any environmentally sensitive areas that include floodplains or designated wetlands. The site will be subject to the town of Smithfield stormwater management regulations, and the adjacent uses to the property to the north, it is B3, commercial, existing commercial use. To the south, it is office and institutional, which is the town cemetery. To the east, it is B3 and R6 residential, which is a mix of commercial and residential use. And to the west, it's office and institutional, which is multifamily residential with assisted living. The applicant has provided a site plan for the automobile sales lot that includes a 48 employee and customer parking spaces and 436 spaces for automobiles for sale. The plan also indicates a 30-foot landscape easement buffer on the cemetery side and a 40-foot buffer on the seniors housing side. A 15-foot street yard will be provided along the West Market Street and an 8-foot transition yard between the automobile sales lot and the adjacent shopping center. Landscaping islands are shown in accordance with the town of Smithfield UDO. Stormwater facilities will be provided in accordance with the town's planning, town's ordinances to the rear of the property adjacent to the senior citizens. Access will be provided by the existing NCDOT driveway cut to the property, which is adjacent to the old Wendy's store. All surfaces are to contain automobiles shall be paved or with asphalt or concrete. The applicant will be required to submit a detailed landscape plan, lighting plan, stormwater plan, and additional site improvement details.
What you see here, which is also in your packet, is a representation of the proposed site plan. This is US 70. This is the old Wendy's property right here. This is the town cemetery here. This is the senior living facility here. Presently, this is a vacant lot, and there's additional senior housing here. The blue is an indication of where the stormwater management pond is. The darker green colors with the trees around the perimeter are the required landscaping which will meet the ordinance. And in addition to that, there will be additional landscape islands introduced into the property. There's one existing structure that will be utilized as the office, and there's another structure which is a garage area which will be used for car preparation and cleanup for sales. The proposed B3 zoning district allows uses in this district which are consistent with the strategic growth plan, which car lot is one of those. The proposal is consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and also allows for car sales providing that there's conditional use granted by the council. Compatibility with the surrounding land uses, compatibility issues with surrounding land uses can be anticipated given the type and size of intensity of the proposed automobile sales lot in the adjacent senior living facility and cemetery. Signage, there's one existing ground sign on the property that appears to qualify for permit that could be refaced. If not, they would have to re-permit the sign in accordance with the new ordinance. Basically, the old ordinance allowed for a pedestal sign in that zone district that could go up to 30 feet. The new ordinance only allows an 8-foot high monument type sign. Fire protection will be by the town of Smithfield. This project should have no impact on the school system nor parks and recreation. Access and street will be by US 70 business.
and that will have to be approved by NCDOT. Water and sewer will be provided by the town, and the electrical provider will be Duke Energy. You're asked to look at the findings, and in connection with this quasi-judicial session of a conditional use permit is requested, the town council and planning board may consider certain approved criteria. Please refer to the attached approval criteria in your packet. Also in your packet are the minutes from the planning board and the action taken by them. Planning staff's recommendation recommends denial of the conditional use permit for the proposed automobile sales lot due to harmful or adverse effects on adjacent properties, the senior living center and the cemetery. The planning board recommendation at its November the 7th meeting, which was passed on a 6-2 vote to recommend denial of the request for a conditional use permit for the proposed automobile sales lot. The town council is now requested to review the petition and make a decision based on the finding of fact that's in your packet for a 6.05 acre automobile sales lot on property located within the B3 district. Attached, or you find the finding of fact, and the planning board minutes are as part of Exhibit C. And then also attached are the notifications to the adjacent property owners, the notice of public hearing, and the application. So I stand open for any questions.
Does the council have any questions for Paul?
The planning board, you said it's a 6-2 vote, because really the two votes were not there. Were there 8 people present at the planning board?
I believe there were 8 people present at the planning board.
Okay. Well, I guess I read the minutes wrong. I thought somebody excused themselves. And
I think the chairperson excused themselves.
Mr. Foy had to leave early to attend his duties as magistrate of court.
So did he physically vote, or is his vote counted a certain way in his absence?
No, he did not vote. Just my understanding.
Mr. Emler, the applicant that has put in this application and seeking to do this, the site plan to me looks marginally, compared to what it is, reasonable. My concern is the applicant currently does business here. Can you elaborate on the fact of how that's been going?
They are a permitted use for a car lot in 2 locations in town. They're doing business as I&R Auto. They had attained permits. Those were already, the conditional use permit was already granted for those properties, so all they had to do was administrative approval. It did not have to come before council because of pre-existing conditional use permit. Plan review was accomplished, and they were given the standards of the town to those efforts. They initially got enough permitted on the site to operate the car lots. We released the permits, issued a privilege license, which entitled them to go ahead and get their license from the state. So they are licensed with privilege license by the town and by the state. That being said, we have had some notice of violations due to the way the property was being used, and we're dealing with those now.
Any other questions for Paul from the council?
Yes. Mr. Emler, how long have you been dealing with these violations?
Since a little bit, the most recent round was just before the planning board took it under consideration. We did an inspection on the property. And it goes back to last summer when DOT was still doing work out there on the bridge.
Okay, is this in addition to previous violations as well from the town in years past?
Not with these 2 particular instances. The other violations out there were with other car lots.
I see in the notes from the planning board that the applicant made the statement that some of the violations were due to lack of space. I guess we'll have a chance to talk to them. Can we ask them questions?
They'll be allowed a chance to speak after we're finished questioning Paul.
All right. So, in fact, Mr. Emler, these the violations that you spoke about, Were these serious violations, or can you explain to the board some of the violations that you had?
The violations that were issued were primarily dealing with the way the vehicles were displayed, the handicap accessibility of parking, where the customer parking was located, signage, and some landscaping issues. We made reference to those in a letter. This is the town's normal process. We submitted it. A number of those items have been corrected by the applicant. There are still a few items that haven't been corrected.
Mr. Amlett, how many, did you say they're currently operating 2 car lots in the town?
The town has 2 car lots permitted as I&R Auto.
Can you tell me where those are located?
The first lot is the first lot after you cross the bridge westbound on Market Street. It's immediately to your right. Then you have the abandoned convenience store that was there with the fencing around it. Then you have the town of Smithfield pump station that's on that side of the river. And then the next car lot is by someone else that Doug Shirley had, and it's the car lot adjacent to that. So it's the first and the third car lot as you go westbound.
Okay.
You said the violations were due to how the cars were displayed. Was that due to overabundance of what was permitted for the lot?
Their permit has no limitation of number. It only has a location of where they were allowed.
Thank you.
I believe they had their cars pushed up too close to the DOT right away, too close to the highway going by, instead of staying back some.
We have the findings of fact that we have to base any decision on. And these findings of fact, we've got to have the evidence, one way or the other. So, I mean, maybe we need to think of our questions in terms of these findings of fact. I mean, what will materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plans submitted, or will not materially endanger the public health?
Well, before we get that, the applicant's going to need to come up and present his.
I understand. I just wanted to get any evidence that Mr. Embler has on the 4 issues that we have to decide.
In regard to those comments, you are very much correct in stating that you basically have 4 questions you have to address. One, will the project materially endanger the public health or safety is one question. The second one, that it meets all requirements and specifications of the town of Smithfield. The third is will not substantially injure the value of adjacent properties. And the fourth is that it would not adversely affect the adopted plans and policies of the town of Smithfield. Those are basically the 4 questions that you have to ask. The information that we submit to you from the staff's recommendation report is that we're concerned primarily with how it will affect the residential property to the rear, which is the senior citizens housing. It's a high-intensity commercial use adjacent to a dense residential area. That's where staff's review comes. In reading the planning board minutes, that is also what I sense that their concerns were, at least in part.
Would it be fair to say that then that your department's recommendation is really based on finding of fact number 3?
Yes, sir.
How about number 2?
The project as submitted by the engineer generally meets the criteria established in the UDO as well as the comprehensive plan. There will have to be additional plans submitted if the town council so approves the conditional use permit. They still have to go through the site plan approval process. The details of those plans of how many plants, how big the stormwater pond's got to be, all those things will still be reviewed and controlled by staff. As a result of that, the pond may have to get bigger, therefore the number of cars that are allowed on the property will get cut back. So those are normal issues that occur in any site development, would not be specific to this. So they can meet the requirements that are established in the UDO based on our preliminary review of the plan submitted. They meet the minimum buffers, setbacks, landscape yards, accessibility issues. Those are met and addressed by the plan.
So they do meet. The town council should not reject them on number 2.
I would say that is an accurate statement, yes.
Number 3, if they reject it on number 3, the reasons are?
The reasons from staff's opinion on why it would injure the value of the adjacent property, because the property is already presently in use as a senior citizens development, and the property is really not a compatible use with the high-density residential use.
Because of, they want you to develop a record because of noise or what?
Noise, lighting, proximity of vehicles, heat that would be generated off the parking lot during the summertime. Those are all issues that are kind of different than what you would normally expect in a residential area. Potentially noise, on a car lot this size, you would normally expect it to be some kind of PA system. So those are the type of issues we would be concerned about.
Any other questions for Paul?
One more, Mayor. Is this the same property, isn't this the same property we talked about for a housing, apartment complex?
It is.
And that's fallen through?
The funding was not achieved for the apartment complex. It was through the Housing Finance Agency of the state of North Carolina. They only awarded one project in Johnston County, which was up at Riverwood. It was a very similar facility at Riverwood, but primarily addressed older senior citizens' needs.
So was that a conditional use permit?
Yes.
That was approved?
Yes. Just for reference, particularly to the new council members, when the council approves a conditional use permit, it remains with the land. It can transfer ownership, it stays with the land. So the one for the apartment is still valid, but they would have to submit the plans and go through approval. Now, if they change the plan of which that was approved on, then you have the right to review it again, or you also have the right to rescind the conditional use permit if you so elect. But that doesn't happen too often. So if you were to approve this conditional use permit for a car lot, then it would stay with the land just as if it were the housing. And it's basically what the word is entitlement. You're obtaining the entitlement out of the land. In other words, you're increasing the value of the land by allowing this to go there over what it would be in its natural zoning, which is B3.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the same property years ago, before I was on the council, that an applicant made a conditional use application for a car lot as well.
Not a car lot, a car storage area.
Car storage.
Yes, it was not a car lot, it was a car storage area.
Well, I guess one of my concerns is, as a property owner, whoever the property owner is, what type of use is going to be compatible? I mean, obviously, we know an apartment complex would be, because we approved the conditional use permit, subject to those conditions, but.
Well, what from past experience that I've had dealing with other communities in a future life, when you come up against a conditional use, the town council is in its right to say, instead of the required 40-foot buffer, that you put a 50, 60-foot buffer, you could require additional landscaping. You would do things to mitigate the effect on that property. Does that make sense?
It does. Is that possible here?
It could be a possibility. That's the council's decision.
But in terms of your office and the planning department, are there ways a site plan could be reconfigured or conditional uses could be reconfigured to where your staff would approve a conditional use for a car lot.
That would depend on the plan submitted. That could be a possibility, yes.
And I don't want to rush the discussion too much, but I'd like to give the chance for the applicant to come up and speak. And then after he speaks, we can go into session and talk about what we want to do. If everyone's finished asking Paul a couple of questions. Paul, you're going to stay here. Who's representing I&R Auto?
Good evening. My name is Carlos Hewlin. I'm representing I&R Auto today. I'm currently their manager and the director of operations there for this lot and the one down the street too, and the one in Clayton. So I'm open to any questions. We did have a few violations that were made aware to us. We really didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about it, so we really couldn't take action at that lot, 218 Market Street. There were some miscommunications between our current owner, Ronnie Barber, and me, and we couldn't get it fixed. Maybe in a timely fashion, and how maybe the town of Smithfield would have liked it to get fixed. When we did get the notifications, we tried to move on as quick as possible. I know there was we got pictures last time in November, the November hearing, and we got all that fixed too. As far as the parking and stuff like that, we took action. We painted new parking spots, cleaned up the area. We know there was a lot of brush and debris and stuff in the back for the meter readings and stuff like that. We also got rid of all that. We outgrew the place. Really, that's what happened. We outgrew it. We're trying to, get ourselves a bigger piece of property, and follow all the rules that we need to follow. If we need to, do this and do that, we're more than willing to be compliant to whatever the city needs us to do. We basically want to open this bigger business to prevent something like this from happening again. We've been there about 5 years, and we understand. We really do understand what was going on, and I came down pretty hard on the guys, and we got it all fixed, and we don't want it to be like that anymore, which is why we want to have this bigger place. So I'm open to any questions that you do have.
I guess I probably don't have a question, but my concern is that you've heard the staff recommendations, and you heard it at the planning board, and you know how the planning board voted.
Yes, sir.
And I just throw out there, is there anything you could do to go back to the planning staff and try to resubmit plans that might be more acceptable to staff and more acceptable to the planning board?
We would be willing to do that, absolutely. The issue here is really time crunch because of the bank at the local place right now. We're running out of time. We actually had to ask for another extension for this hearing. For us to ask for another extension, I doubt that would happen. They barely gave us this one, so really we're at a time crunch. I guess we wouldn't have the time to do that, although we are very willing to do that. I mean, absolutely, we're not opposed to that at all.
Sir, is it my understanding that you plan to have 3 lots, or you just gonna move one of your lots?
I think we're
to
just
this
going to
one?
end up moving to that one central location. What's happening here is we're doing business as I&R Auto. We're moving and I guess dividing ourselves up to a new business. It's a new business that we're opening under a new name. It's no longer going to be I&R Auto. So the dealership that we have in Clayton would combine with the dealership we have here at 218 Market Street and make it one big. I&R Auto would still stay down the street, the other lot for Ronnie Barber, which is the current owner of the INR Auto Corporation. So no, we wouldn't have 3 lots, we'd only have 1.
I'd like to say thank you for being interested in doing business in Smithfield. That's very important, as well as anybody else who's interested. But I do have some concerns with this process. The car lots that you have, can you elaborate on why you're not in compliant with the rules?
Yes, sir. Really, what happened is that, like I said, we just ran out of space. Thank God that we actually did pretty good in the 5 years that we've been there, and we just literally grew out of space. We had to move when we got when our inspector, the city of Smithfield inspector went down, he told us to move a whole row to the, get it out of there because we were out of our property line. I guess we were trying to fit as much inventory as possible. We overgrew, really. That's really what happened. We have cars, that we want to be able to sell and, make good business of, but we just really ran out of space. We have well over, I want to say, 50 cars on the lot now. And that's discounting the cars that we had that were uncompliant, that were past the property line, we were too close to the highway, I guess, and we had to move about 10 of those cars in total back or away. So basically, we're uncompliant because we just ran out of space. Although some of them, we do take full responsibility for some of the stuff that had nothing to do with that. Like maybe some of the stuff was like the grass in the back and, maybe parts and stuff and the mess. We do take full responsibility for that, and we apologize for the mess that will not happen again. It is not happening again, and we have, made it clear that we have a dumpster, and there's other areas where we can dump our trash or whatnot.
So, can you explain to me one more time about INR Auto? Is that your business?
INR Auto is the business name right now. This is INR Auto is where and Sandra Sanchez, we're selling cars right now. The applicant is Sandra Sanchez.
Okay.
We are going to move from INR Auto. We're basically dividing. We're separating from INR Auto to this new lot.
So, do we have a representative from INR Auto here? Because the application is in the name of INR Auto.
No, I guess we don't.
You're representing that,
I guess, I am, I'm being paid by INR Auto, but I'm also also representing the new business too, I guess, if that makes any sense.
But you said earlier you'll be combining the 3 lots into one.
No,
How are you going to do that if you're disassociating yourself with INR?
Yeah, well, what we're doing is, we have a partnership, I guess, with the owner of INR Auto, which is Ronnie Barber. So we have Ronnie Barber and me, let's just say. Now what I'm doing is basically separating myself from him and making myself independent, a separate business on it. That's what's happening here.
So the 2 locations currently will remain?
No, sir. The only one that's going to remain is the one further down the road, not the one by the bridge.
Okay.
just to add confusion to the whole thing. Because I'm kind of slow, so let's go backwards. INR Alto has applied for this conditional use permit.
Sandra Sanchez is applying for the conditional use permit.
Who is Israel Sanchez Miranda? That's the person who signed this application.
Sir, yes, sir.
Is he prepared? Are you prepared to come on record? And I think we need to be asking the questions of the applicant.
Oh, he doesn't speak very.
He doesn't speak English.
But you're representing him.
You're representing.
Yes, sir.
And are you an employee of the company? Or
Yes, sir.
partner? Okay.
I'm sorry, is that Mr. Miranda there in the audience?
Yeah, has he been sworn in? No.
That is Mr. Miranda, sitting down.
Yes, he said it was.
That's Mr. Miranda, sitting down. Okay.
Do you guys need more time to reorganize this and get the facts together? It's really hard for us to make a decision if we don't know exactly what we're talking about as far as this application is incorrect.
I guess we do. I don't see the,
Mayor, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I mean, I don't,
If nobody else has anything else to say.
Well, let me let the applicant.
yeah, the applicant was INR Auto, right? I guess apparently it was INR Auto. The applicant was INR Auto. Okay.
It actually says the applicant's Market Street 1500 LLC.
Okay, sure. The applicant is 1500 LLC, which would be, that doesn't make any sort of sense because
We have a copy of the
The
original
applicant information, applicant INR Auto.
I was looking at the staff report.
Page 31.
Other than page 8.
And just for your information,
Sir.
we are listening to sworn testimony from you.
Yes, sir.
And we need it either as an official representative of the applicant and the true applicant, because whatever we do up here is on record. And we need to make sure that we're dealing with the person who's going to be making the decisions on the lot and on the property. That's the reason why we need to make sure. Okay?
Okay, yeah, because we were under the assumption when we filled out the application that I guess it was INR Auto. Apparently, it's not.
Well, I think the application said, Andy, I was referring to page 8, which is a staff report, said Market Street.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
And I'll defer to Mr. Spence on this. It may not matter too much, but I think we need to at least know who the applicant is and hear testimony. The person can't speak English, I understand that, and if you're the representative, we just need to make that clear. Your thoughts, Mr. Spence?
Well, I think you might want to send this back to the planning board and see if we get the process right. Because it does seem to matter who is making the application. This is primarily the issue of what the use is going to be, but it's the person making the application, not just anybody. So here, there's confusion among the applicants as to exactly what entity they are, I think. It may be technical, but they seem to be confused about whether they're the original name or whether they're a splitter off groups of that name.
That would be a condition of the use.
So, Paul, if we send it back, is there a way to get it back and back here in a reasonable period of time? Do we have it back here in the next meeting, or how could you do that? It doesn't have to go back to the planning board, I don't think.
It wouldn't necessarily have to go back to the planning board as long as they didn't change the plan. The applicant name is more of a legal issue, not a planning or a zoning issue, so I would say that's a decision that this board would make.
I'm going to interject and get a little clarification. We've got copies of your original application here, and on the application, it says applicant is INR Alto. So is there an owner or representation of INR Alto here tonight?
I am employed by INR Auto.
You're an employee, okay.
Yeah.
And when this zoning takes place, well, so if INR Auto gets it rezoned, we're making our conditional use permit to INR Alto, is that correct?
The way it's written right now, you would.
All right. When you open your new lot over there, will it be I&R Auto?
No, sir.
I think that's where the confusion's getting in there. We should have put out this thing and do it.
If we speak to Ronnie Barber, the current owner of I&R Auto, and have our permit written to I&R Auto, can we change the name later? Or do we just right out of the gate need to do it with the new name?
Who owns the land?
Bank of Forks owns it now.
Who has the contract to buy it, I&R Auto or an individual?
An individual.
Who's that?
Sandra Sanchez.
Okay. Two things. One, I think that's the person that should be on the application. I don't think he can represent a person unless he's an attorney, which he's not. And, it is where it is. I'm not sure what the process was, if he was there at the planning board meeting, but, the planning board can't pick who shows up at the meeting. All they can do is give a response. I think you have two options. One, I think you can send it back, let them get the right representative, or I think you can consider it, say the application is incomplete, and deny it.
All right. Is there any other questions? I'm going to move to close the public session. If we're through asking any questions.
I've got one question for Mr. Embler regarding the current conditional use for the lot as soon as you come across the bridge. Do you have a copy of that with you tonight? The conditional use, do you have it available?
The lot, as it comes across the street, was originally permitted by the Hopkins brothers, Harry and Ronnie. It was run as that. That's where the conditional use permit was issued. That was prior to my time of coming here. So I have found no record of that being a conditional use permit for that lot. However, by use, it has been, as well as all those properties owned by Red Shirley at one time. And I think a lot of those those lots have been there and more or less grandfathered into the situation. And a lot of that, I'm not sure how much of this property, but when the town council annexed West Smithfield in, they basically accepted the land uses that were there. And so when we codified those into our zoning ordinance as they best fit. So it's just like where they're wanting to relocate to. There would have had to been a conditional use permit for mobile home sales from the town of Smithfield if it had been in the town of Smithfield. But there was West Smithfield Sanitary District didn't require anything. You just build it.
Okay.
Could you send this, we could send this back to you, and we need to get a statement from the Bank of Forks as to who's going to lease the property and whether they have an estate and interest in the land, and so they have standing to make an application. And the business entity needs to be clarified.
Can I ask one question of the applicant before we go much further, and I may be able to put an end to it? Is Ronald Barber the sole owner of I&R Auto, or is Israel a part owner in it?
No, sir, he is the sole owner.
Okay. The application was made as I&R Auto. We took it as that. All the notices of violation, for instance, have gone to Ronald Barber because that's who we have on our records. Right. As that when we have talked to these folks, a lot of times they have not gotten the records, the letters of notices of violation that we have sent out because they've all gone to Ronald Barber. So,
Mr. Emler, other question. The adjoining property owners, have you had any contact as far as their concerns, or is any of them here tonight with this conditional use permit?
I don't see any. At the planning board hearing, there was the gentleman that owned, Don Johnson, that owned the Wendy's from Carlisle Corporation out of Nashville, Tennessee, was here, but I don't see any other property owners.
Are we through talking on the public side? Because I can close that out and we can have some discussion on this.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
All in favor, say aye. Let's move into some discussion and finding of fact, or do you want to send this back because of
Well, here's,
the wrong entities applying for those permits?
here's my concern. Based on the evidence that's been presented to us and evidence that we've heard, nothing has addressed finding of fact number 3. The only evidence we have regarding finding number 3 is that it would adversely affect, substantially injure the value of the adjoining and abutting property. And we have not heard any evidence that would indicate otherwise. It seems to me that findings of fact 1, 2, and 4 are probably okay, but finding of fact number 3 is not.
Is the council's wish to go ahead and have a council vote on each of these findings of fact and proceed, no matter who is going to apply for this permit, to let them know our opinion on this use zoning of it? Whether it could be INR Auto or someone else, but we can go ahead and give our denial or approval based on the facts as is, and then make a resubmit if they do get approved.
Yeah, I will make a motion to deny it based upon that it did not meet all 4 stated findings of facts.
All right, I've got a motion. Any seconds on that? Second on that. Okay, so just to make it clear, we're going to deny this permit because of item number 3, which affects the use of the adjoining landowners.
That's correct, Mayor.
Mayor, if I may, on that motion, Mr. Williams, could you incorporate the facts as stated in the record as the support for that, let's call it support for that failure to meet that item number 3?
Sure, as it's read in
Yes, sir.
the proposed automobile sales?
Yes, sir.
As this location may injure the values of adjacent properties due to an increase in traffic noise and light pollution because of the project scale and intensity in close proximity to an existing cemetery to the south, a residential neighborhood to the west, and a senior living facility to the east.
I've got a motion and a second on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, they need a motion to, that's the finding of fact. Will that motion support the actual denial of the application too?
Yes.
I think that was part of his motion, actually.
On page 16, item number 5, motion to deny, you have to take action based on that.
Would you prefer a separate motion to deny?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, I know it's a little bit redundant, but you made the finding of fact that it fails to meet number 3. Now the motion would be to deny the application based on that finding.
So moved.
Have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on to the next one, the annex of 1301 Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation. Paul, can you read us that?
The applicant is requesting voluntary annexation of approximately 25.1 acres of land into the town of Smithfield Downtown Municipal Services District. The properties considered for annexation are located on the south side of West Market Street, approximately 1,100 feet west of the intersection with Front Street. Referring to the property map,
the dark blue line is the Neuse River. This is Market Street. The new bridge is here. The property in consideration is this property right in here.
Voluntary annexations into a municipal service districts are not too unlike annexations into the corporate limits, but a little bit different. And I'll read over the annexation report, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. The properties requesting annexation are adjacent to the existing downtown municipal services district. It is valid in that it is signed by 100% of the property owners.
Do we open the public hearing on this? Do we need to?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I move we open the public hearing. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Thank you,
I
Council.
apologize for interrupting.
Thank you very much. The properties requesting annexation are adjacent to the existing downtown municipal services district and is valid in that it is signed by 100% of the property owners to be annexed. If the annexation is approved by the town council, the properties will be annexed immediately and will be entitled to the same privileges and benefits as other parts of the downtown municipal service district effective January the 7th in 2014. Two dates in here. One, they will become members of the downtown services district on January the 7th tonight if you take action on it. They will not be taxed until such time as the new tax year, which will be July the 1st. You'll see that later on in this. Benefits offered to property and business owners located within the service district include the opportunities to apply for grants, including those offered by the corporation as well as those offered by the state of North Carolina, such as the Main Street Solutions Fund. The corporation works to promote the downtown district as a whole, but also the individual businesses and available properties throughout the district. Also, any business that is located in the service district is eligible to participate in the cooperative merchant advertising program, through which the DSDC assists with the cost of advertisement shared by 4 or more businesses. Furthermore, the corporation staff is able to provide technical assistance to property owners and business owners, as well as call on the expertise of staff of the North Carolina Main Street Center. The town council is requested to conduct a public hearing on the petition for voluntary annexation into the town of Smithfield Municipal Service District received under general statute reference there, and adopt an ordinance for voluntary annexation of the downtown Smithfield Development Corporation properties. Now, having been an original member of the downtown board back in the 80s, for the benefit of the new members who might not be aware of it, the downtown corporation was set up to protect downtown and market it as a given unit. Properties were being gobbled up by the county and being taken off the tax rolls. The local merchants and local property owners band together, voluntarily voted to tax themselves an additional tax for that downtown area. As a result of that tax, they get certain benefits like special advertising, special campaigns. The Ham and Yam Festival was one thing that grew out of that. There's been a lot of things going on in the downtown area that's all due specifically to the Downtown Development Corporation. So just to give you that a little bit of background to it, so the corporation is actually requesting the annexation. It was property that was donated to the corporation. There is one tract of land, and by the way, it came from Red Shirley. There was one tract of land that Mr. Shirley had intended to keep out of this. There's 1 acre immediately adjacent to Wallace Welding. The old council was made aware of that 1 acre, and the DCS has agreed with the council's benefit to give that 1 acre of land back to Doug Shirley and his partner, Mr. Moore. In that is the reason why, under the property owner's acknowledgement of this, you have a letter from the Downtown Development Corporation requesting annexation, and you also have letters from Mr. Moore and Mr. Shirley that are signed saying that they are in agreement with it. After you accept it, they want it to be in the downtown area. So the staff wanted to eliminate any thought that might arise that they did not want to participate in it. They do want to participate in it. The annexation area is the reason why you can jump the river. That question's been asked. Natural barriers such as rivers are considered an extension of the municipal service district, so this is just jumping across the river. It's like there's no river there as far as the service district is considered. Okay, you have in your packet the petition request voluntary and contiguous annexation. Also, I spare you reading a legal description there. but it describes the land, and there was a surveyed map prepared, and this is recorded in the courthouse. So basically, there's an ordinance attached on page 52 that basically goes through the annexation, physically describes it, names the benefits and the privileges thereof, and so you're now asked to take action on that ordinance.
Any questions from the board?
I read it, heard what you said, it all sounds great to me.
All right, well, now, is there any public comment or time from the applicant to speak?
My name is Sarah Edwards. I'm the interim director at Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation. The purpose for this annexation is really as a benefit for the land, as well as potential future business owners, in that we are able to provide or to apply for grants that otherwise you wouldn't be able to encourage positive development on that side of the river. It's a gateway into our downtown, so it's certainly an area we're interested in. So that's really the reason for the request. If y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you. All right. Well, I'd like to close this part side down and see if I can get a motion.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll allow for discussion. I skipped that part if anybody has. All right, we're going to move into the citizens' comments section now. We're going to allow for citizens to come up and speak if they like to. Are there any citizens who'd like to speak tonight? All right, if not, we'll close that. On the consent agenda, I think we're going to need a, Roger made some changes to it. We're going to need approval of the consent agenda as it is, except for the removal of paragraph number 7, is that correct? Number 7.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Normally, we'd go straight into the business items. Do we want to pick up that item number 7 on that consent agenda first? If you added that?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. Who asked that to be removed?
Councilman
Councilman.
All right. Tim Johnson will come up and speak about the positions that he has available. Let's come up after the agenda had been prepared and sent out. He has two part-time budget positions that are already in the budget for a daycare provider as well as a cycling instructor. And he has a position already on the agenda for a part-time custodian for the weekends. Is that correct, Mr. John?
Yes. Yeah, the custodian came up in time to get on the agenda. The other two, the playroom attendant and the cycling instructor, did not. One of those playroom attendant is, that person is leaving, and I mean, they're part-time employees, so they give you 3 or 4 days or a week's notice maybe. And then our cycling instructor, one of those had to cut back, so we have to get another one to fill in the time lapse there. And it would really hurt us if we have to wait till February to replace those 2 positions.
Tim, these ones you're asking for, these are just to replace people who are leaving. They're going to be the same hours and roughly the same pay.
Yeah, the money stays the same. Just people.
It's already budgeted positions.
So if we need to add this to make it as a motion, how would you phrase that motion?
I'm not councilman, sorry.
Well, we're talking about, name the people you're talking about.
Okay, part-time custodian, part-time playroom attendant, and part-time cycling instructor.
Did you say one of yours is out injured?
Oh, no.
Okay. We'll need a motion to allow that to happen.
I move we approve the request.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Moving off of the consent agenda then and moving on to the business items. We got the first business item is authorization to participate in regional grant application for assistant firefighters in the grant program with all Johnson County Fire Departments. And I believe Chief Patrick Harris is here to tell us about it.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an opportunity, we've had a lot of discussions about the P25 communications upgrades that are coming in the future. This is an opportunity to participate with the other fire departments in the county. Essentially what's happened is the county is divided into 2 regions. We've joined these departments together and we're applying for 2 grant opportunities with the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. And there's a breakdown, if you'll look on the back, on the next page of your agenda, page 116. It shows the fire department for Smithfield, our cost replacement analysis. And our situation is the equipment that we have now, the majority of it is not upgradable to meet the P25 standards. So if we participate in this grant program, if we were subject to be approved, you can see the equipment that would be covered by the grant would be a total of about $79,900 would be Smithfield's portion of that. And then of course the additional equipment that would not be covered by grant funds would be about $55,900 for a total project cost of $135,800. It's a 10% match grant, and it will be in cooperation with all 24 fire departments in Johnston County. And we will, with your permission, we would like to participate with them and take advantage of this if we are awarded that. By doing it as a group, we're able to show interoperability with not only the hospital, social services. There's a lot of different agencies that use our 800 megahertz radio system. And by showing that interoperability, we feel like that's going to give us better chance at the Assistance to Firefighters federal grant funding for that. The town's match would be about $7,990, and that would have to be included in a future budget as capital purchase. And I'll certainly entertain any questions that you have or any discussions about this request or the communication bill.
Your old radios are not going to work on the new frequency, or they do work?
No, sir. The existing radio system, and don't confuse police and fire because we're in a little bit different situation. I don't want to speak for the chief. There's been a series of upgrades over the years where the FCC sold some frequencies to Nextel. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened that police had some radios that were replaced that I believe are upgradable. We have some. Our basic system was really given to us by Johnston County when they bought a countywide massive radio system. And so that equipment is aging out. And so the current system, this P25 compatibility, is a narrowing of bands. There's a lot of different things that goes as part of it. But the good thing that happens is it allows us to branch out of a brand-specific radio system, which is what we're in now. We're essentially in a proprietary system that only a company called Harris Communications, which is no affiliation to me, unfortunately, but it's a one deal, so you can only purchase from that company. By the P25 compatibility, we can open that up to any company. So all of those companies will be able to, which allows us to get competitive bids, which is always good for everyone. We believe that the cost of the radios is going to be considerably less than it is now after that. So that's one of the reasons, not that we have a choice, we have to make that change, but we feel like it's going to be better as a result because we can seek competitive bids and buy from any vendor, essentially.
Any other questions for Patrick?
I'll make a motion, we approve the request.
Second.
All in favor, say any discussion?
I have one question. Paul, have you reviewed this in light of the budget? It fits well within the current budget?
Well, 2 things. One, the request tonight is really just to seek authorization to seek the grant. It has not been awarded yet, and what we'll do is we'll bring it back to the council to accept it. Okay. So we don't have to make could we pay for it with the budget funds for this year out of contingency? To answer your question, yes, we could.
It's not going to affect my decision, but it would require a budget amendment.
That's right, absolutely. And typically we try to get the authorization from council to seek in this case, the grant, the award, and then when it's awarded, if it's awarded, we'll come back and say, okay, it was awarded. we'd like to. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't make an application of something we know we couldn't afford. So, your first question is relevant in the sense of, yes, we could afford it if it was awarded tomorrow. What do you think it'll be? I mean, could it be 6, 7 months or longer?
Oh, yeah, it will definitely not be in this budget year.
Yeah.
It would be in a future budget.
Hopefully we'll have more information as we go through the grant process too.
This is really just authorization to participate.
Any other discussion? All right, I've got a second to the motion. All in favor, say aye. Next item on the agenda is special event, Johnson Health Foundation. The Johnson Health Foundation stages the, is anybody here to address this?
Yes.
Oh, you are. Take over.
Okay, with the council's permission, I'd like to paraphrase the action form so I don't have to sit there and read it to you guys. Bottom line, 2 years ago, the Johnson Health Foundation put on a 5K run walk for the support for the emergency room facilities at Johnson Memorial Hospital. It's been a very successful event. It's grown, and now it's time for it to evolve a little bit. They would like to combine it with a Ham and Yam Festival. There's been a traditional run with a Ham and Yam Festival called the, I'm at a loss for words right now, a hog trot, that is this will take the place of that. The course for the hog trot will be done away with, which traditionally ran through South Smithfield. Now it will be the course that starts at the parking lot of Johnson Memorial Hospital and ends there. So it encompasses the Greenway and some of the north side of town, and the activities will not conflict with the specific activities on the south side of Market Street where the Ham and Yam will be located. So the reason why the council approved it as an annual event when it approved it before, but this is a change of venue and change of time. It was approved for the October time frame before, and it's now changing, and the other event's going away, so we felt we need to bring it back to you. In addition, there is a request from the Johnson Health Foundation for the town council to provide traffic control and security as they have in the last 2 years, which will take a council action to provide the funds for the police department to pay overtime to do that. That information is provided in your packet. So with that, I stand open for questions, and you're asked to take consideration of this request. And Allison Drain with the foundation is here. If you have any questions, she'll be happy to answer those specific to the request.
Is this going to be exactly like the hog trot as far as participation, and what kind of people do you expect to participate?
Yes.
HealthQuest has ran the hog trot, I believe, the last 2 years, and HealthQuest is part of Johnson Health, so we'll have access to their mailing lists. In addition, HealthQuest will be helping with this run, so it'll be ran the same way.
Okay. My concern is the police department's going to be really busy, on that day. So if it's a lot more people, it could be a lot more, responsibility for them. But I make a motion that we approve this.
I have a question.
All right. This is a question.
Ma'am, does the sheriff department assist with security of these events, especially this one?
The police department assists us with traffic control. We have not had any on-site help with any security, no.
It's always been town of Smithfield.
Yes.
Just traffic control, no security?
No, we haven't had security on site.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I've got a motion to approve by Travis, I believe. Is that right, Travis?
Second. And then I do have a comment.
Discussion.
I seconded the motion. I think we need to do this, but I think going forward, we need to be mindful of Chief Scott's concerns. His letter's in there. This is a cost to the town. And we just need to be mindful of this, because we've approved a number of things that have obligated his staff in his budget. And my only comment is, I think we need to approve this, I think we need to move forward, but I think we need to be mindful going forward that it is a labor-intensive and budget-intensive item for our police department. I call the question.
All right. Well, we've had any more discussion? And Toby call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, ayes carried. All right, I believe our town manager is going to talk about some pay increases for police officers.
Yes, Mayor, and I think Chief Scott is here. He's going to join us also. Mayor, if you see in the materials on page 129 of your packet, this request to allow the police chief to make his recommendation, allow me to approve promotion of 2 police officers to their next pay grade. And it's a little quirky with the police department because they go through a good bit of training and experience, anywhere from a year to 18 months typically for these for this next grade. And unlike other divisions and other departments, when you make an increase from, for instance, a PO1 to PO2 or PO2 to master officer, it's a rank change and involves a pay grade change. And under our personnel policy, we can't do that without making the minimum 5% increase. And that's where we're stuck a little bit. In some other departments, you could get a certification for a higher level of training without promoting the person who's achieved that certificate, or undertaken a course of study, which we certainly encourage and support. With police, they can do that, and your options are, well, don't promote them, or wait and promote them later after months or a year after they've received the certificate or plan to receive the certificate. And that's, this takes a while and delays that process. I mean, obviously we encourage that, that training and that increase. But, and this isn't the case that, there's only a few kind of jump off points, but this PO1, PO2, master, there's a few higher ones, but those are the ones where most of our police force, sworn officers, they're training, and again, we want them to receive that training. But the only options really are just don't award them until there's an actual merit increase or another salary increase, and that could be 6 months, or in this case, it could be up to 1.5 years or 2 years. And that certainly is something of a disincentive for the police officers to seek those higher
How many
training.
dollars is this going to add to the town's budget? Am I seeing 1865?
Yes, sir. He's got it broken down for this year annually. Once, if it were approved and then approved again next year, it'd be $1865. If you look at the current budget year, it'll be for the one position $741, and for the other position $789.
Is there any questions for Chief Scott?
I have a couple questions. This is for the manager. In fact, is the certification pay stuff been closed or frozen, or what's the status of that at this time?
I'll address that. Basically, it's subject to approval. There's no automatic certification pay. That is, you get the certification automatically increased. And we did that about 1.5 years ago now, I think, basically just for budget concerns. Okay. So basically, we're trying to control that in all departments, and that's why we brought this back to the council, because again, it's a little bit different, of course, and I don't want to not represent the rest of town. Many other departments will say, well, we have the same problems. It is a little bit different. There's not a true rank and file promotion going from one grade to the next in the other areas. And what I try to do there is, when there are budget funds and somebody's got training, a new level of certification, try to factor that into a merit pay when the funds have been appropriated by the council.
Okay. My concern is I think it's productive to have good employees, and this is a way to motivate them and to support them. I would like to see that all of our departments develop a career ladder, as the police department currently has. That would give some incentive for them to move forward, but obviously it has to be budgeted. But I also would like to say that, having said that, if we could consider making it known, as you've already stated, that the other departments, if it is budgeted, that they could in fact consider this for their employees too. So for, the department heads. I would add to the motion that we approve the request as stated, and also for the record, that based on budgeting, the other department heads could proceed as well for other employees.
Discussion.
Any discussion? I've got are you making a motion?
Yes, sir.
To approve this?
Discussion.
We're going to do some more discussion.
Okay.
Can you second first?
Yeah, and just.
We need a second first.
We need a second on his motion, that's what you're saying. Is there a second on Travis's motion to approve this pay raise?
I'll second.
We have a second. Now we're going to discuss Travis's motion.
Just piggyback off what the manager was saying. What impact, because the fire department also has a rank and file career ladder as well. So what would be the difference in this process with the police department versus the fire department?
Yeah, I think it's very similar. I think those two would be similar. I think there's a little bit of differences. I know Patrick is here, can help us fill in the blanks, but I think there are there's a little bit more leeway in fire department, for lack of a better way to express it, where you could receive training without an automatic increase. I can't give an example of the rank and file there, but I know when you go from a firefighter to an engineer, that if there's a certification that matches that, to recognize that, you may very well have to have the same promotional element to take into consideration. But on the other hand, I think, and again, I'm not probably using the best example, but if there's an engineer who gets an additional training, goes to an actual training, becomes a better engineer, better trained there, that may not really require a promotion from engineer to another higher level under our pay grade for the fire department. There are some similarities there, and I think the public safety areas, both police and fire, that's where things get a little bit more difficult, to be honest with you, to encourage and recognize your training without attaching promotion to it. We have a little bit more leeway in other departments, to be honest with you. But it's a valid concern, and they have very similar limitations there. They want to get people trained, but when you get to a certain point, police a little bit closer, fire has the same concerns. You really have a hard time recognizing them without an actual promotion. So, and again, if that were to come up, we'd bring that back to you too in the fire department.
So I'm having a really hard time understanding that. I mean, I want to encourage employees to get the training, but why can this not wait till the annual review?
Well, we could wait till the annual review. We could do that, but this year there's no money attached to an annual review. In fact, we've already had our annual reviews for this year. And as you know, there were no merit or pay increases. So with the review, we could, in this particular case, we would say, good job, you've gone and got the certificate from PO or police officer to master officer, but we can't promote you, we can't increase your rank, although you've got a certificate.
But we paid for your training.
Absolutely.
And you have a job with the town of Smithfield, and we paid for your training to increase your marketability, not only within the town of Smithfield, but within other agencies. And honestly, I don't want to lose these people, but I'm trying to understand this, because that's the reason why we took this out, is not to give automatic pay increases just because someone goes out and obtains a certification. Now, with that being said, we want to encourage it, but we don't want to get, are we going to go back to the same way?
No, I think...
And just because you obtain the certification, that you automatically get a pay raise. Because that employee, I don't know, and I'm not that employee's supervisor, and I know, Chief, you wouldn't be standing up here advocating it, but just because an employee gets a certification, he may be the worst employee ever.
Well,
but he got his certification, so then we're going to reward. That's.
That was my next question. Do you have officers in line to do this, or do you choose? Do you request them to take that as far as your bench strength, or they just do it on their own accord? How does that work?
A lot of it's self-initiated, depending on the officer. Some move through the process a lot quicker than others, depending on their initiative. They're required to do a lot more than just a certification. That's part of this process. That's why it's a promotion. It's in the current salary schedule. It's approved by the council, and they're actually changing pay grades. We're not just adding money and keeping them in the same pay grade. They have received enough training to move and be promoted to the next position, and that is a different pay grade in our pay system. As an example, if you're moving from PO1 to PO2, if you don't have a college degree, it takes you 3 years to get there. It's not something, then that's not negotiable. They have to be here for a minimum of 3 years. During that time, they have to go through 160 hours of training. And that, included in that is 40 hours of community policing, 40 hours of traffic enforcement, 40 hours of investigating training, and 40 hours of a topic that I choose, that I think is important. So they don't just go out and do whatever they want to do. They've got to complete those things. And then to move to the next step, they have to be a PO2 for 2 years before they can get to Master Patrol Officer. And they have to have a total of 280 hours of training to do that. And they have to have an intermediate certificate provided by the state of North Carolina. So there's a lot that goes into this thing. It's not something that they just go out and get 10 hours of training or 40 hours of training in their
Say at least as well, Supervisor.
There's a whole process. And the other thing is, because this is a promotion, we have sergeants, we have lieutenants, we have captains. Well, you can't become a sergeant unless you're a PO2 for at least 2 years. So if you're going to put off their PO2, now you're creating a situation where I don't have a promotional list if I get a sergeant's vacancy because I don't have anyone that's PO2 for 2 years. And then I'm promoting people that maybe aren't our best people. So it creates a whole gamut of a backlog of problems if we're not going to stick to what is currently created. Now, the employee handbook does allow career ladder program. It was not written out, it's still there. And this has been approved before in this budget. To address the mayor's question about an increase, this is not a true increase. We have people outgoing that are already in this rank, and all we're doing is moving people back in there.
Talking about for total dollars budget, payroll budgets for the year. No, but for those individuals.
And it's not an increase for next year. Because you have people like, we have an officer who just left Morrisville. He was a Master Patrol Officer. So we're promoting people up now. So that money's already in the budget now.
Just to clarify my comments, so everybody's clear on it. I have no problems paying the town employees for doing a good job.
I'm not saying that you do.
And I got no problems if someone's followed procedures and gone through standard operating procedures for the police department and improved themselves, that they qualify for higher ranks. And I don't begrudge that pay a bit. Sure. Your comment is that the total payroll budget will stay effectively the same because you have people leaving and they're just moving up the ladder to their spots. Okay.
Chief, if I may say too, Councilman Moore addressed your concern about the certification. I understand where you're coming from. You just go get something, we pay for it, and then they have additional stuff. But I've done some study on this, and just to clarify that for you for the record, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, this actually helps prevent compression amongst your employees. If you have a police officer who decides to stay at the bottom level, that's his choice, but this is an incentive for him to move up within the role of a police officer. But it's simply clarification. And also with that, it's healthy for the overall system, overall town, as far as money, because it is limited by time. If I'm not mistaken, it's 12 months. They can't just come back next month and do it again. This is something that sets goals for them to achieve, and by them achieving those goals on their own without the requirement of the job, then it actually it rewards them for that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same for the fire.
So with the certification, just from my standpoint, for the certification pay, does that automatically put them into a higher pay grade?
If you want to say career ladder, I'm not comfortable with certification because it's not certification.
Right, and I think that's maybe where
career
I'm
ladder
confused a bit.
increases once they have received a promotion to the next step and they've met the criteria then policy, then yes, they automatically should move to the next step.
Okay. And I think that was where I was a bit confused.
But that also includes, part of that is also included in their evaluations. They have to also have certain criteria met in their evaluations also. And if they have substandard evaluation, they don't get to move. So that stops the employee that is a terrible employee who just has a training from moving.
Right. Okay.
Any more discussion?
Clarification, Chief, this does not impact your budget this year, this fiscal year, correct?
There is no impact as far as, because of we replaced 6 people already this year, We have 2 vacancies we're carrying now. We can easily fit this into our current budget.
Thank you.
I've got a motion, a second. What was that motion, Shannon? Can you read that back? Request.
Councilman Scott made the motion, seconded by Councilman Wood, to approve the request as stated based on the budgeting to allow other department heads to have the same opportunity as funds are budgeted. Is that correct?
Yes. Got a motion and a second? That's correct. That's correct. Got a motion and a second? Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, budget item number 4. Paul, we're going to talk about the budget amendment for water treatment and sludge removal.
Yes, sir. Mr. Khan's going to join us too. You've got the memo. Again, this is on page 131 of your packet. If you recall, last August, the prior utility director submitted an estimate about the water plant changes. If you recall, we're having trouble with our raw water transfer and processing treatment going to Johnston County. We're meeting the state requirements, but we're a little bit under the Johnston County requirements, which were actually higher than the state requirements. We fell below the contractual requirements in our agreement with Johnston County to transfer our water to the county for its use. When that was discovered, we stopped the transfer, looked into it. We lost about, I think, Pete, we figured about a month and a half. Is that right?
Month and a half, yeah.
Month and a half.
August and September.
5 or 6 weeks of transfer to the county under that agreement. We made some adjustments to the treatment process, the chemicals, and the former utilities director brought forward an estimate that it would take to basically convert the present alum treatment to a ferric sulfate treatment, chemical treatment for the water. And that's what we're still moving in that direction. We've been able to get the water back to the required standards for both the state and the county without actually making the full ferric conversion at this point. We've done a bunch of basin cleaning. We're using a little bit more chloride and some other more technical things that maybe Mr. Connick can better explain to you. And we've got it down to the process. But the biggest factor in that, frankly, has probably been the cooler weather that helps reach those better treatment standards. And that's probably been the biggest factor for right now. So we're meeting that. We were able to re-transfer water to the county back in October, get that moving again. And looking at the process, I think the original estimate was somewhere between $280 and as much as $320,000 or more to make all of those conversions. Mr. Khan's gone back over it. He's reviewed it, gotten some better quotes, a little bit better history, and to convert to that new ferric sulfate process, he believes a total budget amendment in the water plant department alone of $221, and as outlined in the memo, would be enough to get us through this year. And of course, we'll probably learn a little bit more between now and the end of the budget year, and might have to adjust that number going forward in the next fiscal year. But I think Mr. Connick and myself feel that number would be a good estimate to make this change.
I would like to thank Pete a lot, because I saw that $180,000, but if y'all can do it for $221, I think we ought to make it a motion on it right away.
21,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, is it $221,000? I like the $221, Paul said.
$221,000. I'm trying to help out.
All right. Let's clarify that one. All right, any,
Pete, I know I summarized it briefly, but maybe you can help us.
Yeah, when I got into this and trying to get a grasp of what was going on and what the costs were and where they were and trying to project out for a budget amendment to present to you, the only way I knew to approach it was to basically put a new budget together, approach it on a 12-month, based on the history that we've had, current expenses through end of November, basically, and project it on out. The biggest costs are being in the hauling, what we call pump and haul, because to get those basins cleaned out and get that sludge handled, and it has to be disposed of at the county landfill right now. So that's a cost using, you'll see a backup sheet in here for Meridian, who's the hauler. They are in the process.
We've hauled sludge in the past. Is this a different than just the removal of the alum sludges?
It cannot be land applied. We used to have a land application with Granville Farms in Granville County. That permit resided with them and actually has expired. It was not in the town's name. So Meridian is getting a new permit for their land application that has just gone to the state. So we'll be able, hopefully by March 1, they'll have that approved so that we can do land application again and not have the cost of having to dispose of it at the county landfill, which they are now charging us. You'll see the backup sheets on that. We have paid them in the past September, October billing, which was the height of when we were doing all this basin cleaning and getting this backlog of waste, if you will, and residue that's left over from the filtering process. Those 2 months ran $33,000 one case, $38,000 another. The December billing I haven't seen yet, but I'm estimating that at 20 because we're hauling less loads to them and projected it out through February billing. You see the note there in the backup materials by March 1.
I'm just curious, when you were land spreading it out, was it a lot cheaper to take it to the landfill also?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's really very little cost application.
So basically, if you'd had that contract, you'd be paying your $100,000 ahead.
Yep. So,
is the water plant revenue neutral?
Is it revenue neutral?
I mean, are you charging enough that we get enough from the
It's all built into the water sewer fund, so it's hard to, I haven't analyzed it from that standpoint, Mr. Lampy, or Mayor Lampy, but get used to calling you Mayor Lampy. But with the water and sewer operations, you are at least on a...
In the past, we would be revenue neutral to actually have enough extra funds to set aside for repairs or large things. You have no contingency fund or no depreciation cost funds?
There are some, if you look at the budget, there is a depreciation line item in there that goes back into the capital, so it's built into the budget there. It's a non-revenue, if you will, or expense there, but it is built into the books of the fund balance in the water and sewer fund. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Siler, is that right? Yeah. And all our departments, the water and sewer maintenance has a depreciation on their assets as well. But those are the two biggest costs of the chemicals. As the manager stated, the move from alum to ferric sulfate, we're stretching that out a little further because it's cool weather is helping us. We're still adding, having to use more alum and caustic soda. Those are the two main ones that we're having to do more of to get this THM and HAAs, and don't tell me I won't get into all the technical part, but to stay in compliance with the county's requirement. We're always in compliance with the state and EPA's guidelines and rules in terms of those limits.
One quick question. I don't want to play the blame game, but why did you let the town let the contracts lapse with the person they had where they could spread the waste out and not have another one to replace it right off the bat where we haven't used the county?
Mayor Lambie, I don't know.
Can we just stockpile it on site and not take it to the county and then take it to the landfill later?
It's in a liquid form, so it is not in a solid form. We are also looking, because right now what you're doing, you're removing more waste, you're creating more waste in the vacuum press that was put in back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, and that has not been operating properly. So,
is it currently in operation, Mr. Conn?
Pardon?
Is that currently in operation?
Not right now. It's not, and it is very expensive to operate too. It has not been. There's an efficiency level which it's probably operating only about 50 to 60% efficiency in the water removal, if you will, from the cake of that. So, and we had a contract, or we have a contract with Waste Management to haul that solids away. But since we've been doing we have not had to use them since we've been doing the more liquid waste from the lagoon there, from the basins with Viridian doing to the county. And they will do it to the land application method, which probably would be cheaper than operating that vacuum press as well.
I was on the council when we put in that vacuum press. And at the time, I was assured it was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's going to save us a ton of money.
It's, we're trying to get the manufacturer or a rep in here to see what's wrong with that equipment, to fine tune it, get it back, and subsidize and operate both with a pump and haul and using the old vacuum press. Eventually, I think you're going to have to, and the manager was in some meetings, and this is with the Wooten Company, and looking at alternatives along with they're looking at the raw water study down at the river intake to look at whether we replace that with something, what's called a plate press or a belt press, or another centrifuge is another method, but those get very expensive. So we're still investigating all of those and trying to get what we have already in place, operating as it should. That plant, a lot of what we're seeing, little breakdowns here and there, keeps mounting up every day, it seems like. But that plant, a lot of those things that are breaking on us now, these are small things, but that's 4,000 here, 5,000, 2,000, are things that have been in there since 1976 when the plant was built. Those things we're experiencing, seeing a lot of now. But so the numbers we put together here hopefully will get us through this fiscal year. We need to tweak some lines back and forth, but I don't think.
If you're spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month just for the cost of removing the sludge and taking it to the county landfill, is there a quicker alternative you can get for that? So you want to
if the state will turn that application quicker, we could, cut one more month off of it.
And how long before they approve the application, do you think?
The application went in mid-December, so they've got a 60-day review period. So we're looking at, with the holidays, it was probably going to be the end of February. Hopefully you could get it the 1st of February. That would be 30 days, 45 days. See if we could press them on getting that a little earlier. We're also getting somebody to look at the alum tanks, storage tanks, liquid alum that we use. The weight of alum in a liquid form versus the weight of a liquid ferric sulfate. Ferric is 3 times heavier. Those tanks have been in there probably since the plant was built in the 70s, early 80s. We found some dates, so we're getting those tanks inspected to see if that fiberglass is deteriorated to the point where you cannot recondition it, recover it, and reseal it to handle that extra weight, or we have to invest in a new tank.
Any questions for Pete? We're going to have to spend some money, so I'm looking for a motion to approve $221,326.
And basically, if I may, we just moved that in the water and sewer fund. It is not new out of fund balance. It's moving from the water sewer department distribution fund for economic development, some out of that money, and then out of contingencies in the water sewer fund as well.
I understand, but it's still a loss, a net loss for the fact that the town wasn't prepared, not you personally, or anybody in this room, of course. But somehow along, we lost the fact that we don't have a supplier to do our land dump, all that stuff, and we're paying the county an extra $20,000 a month, and losing $100,000 basically for some oversight on our part.
We're able, as the manager said, we were out September with 0 sales to the county in terms of revenue coming back to us to help offset that extra cost. And but now they're taking a great deal more of water from us. We're back up into the $40,000 a month for me.
I need a motion from the council to spend this money.
Well, it appears to me from the materials that although we are spending additional money, it is not new money. It is money already in the budget. It's just being adjusted from various line items.
That's correct.
And based on that, I move that we approve the request.
I second that.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Number 5. Oh, we got a consideration to recommend appoint a representation to Johnson County Economic Development Advisory Board. Any recommendations for that board?
There was an applicant in the packet.
He's withdrawn his application.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion. We nominate Mike Fleming.
I'll second that motion.
Have a second motion and a second to Mike Fleming. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, item number 6, council representation to serve on the Triangle J Council. I need a second alternative for the Triangle J Council of Governments.
I'll make a motion to approve Charles Williams for that position.
All right, got a motion for Charles Williams.
A second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. And I'm looking for a Town of Smithfield Library Board of Trustees. The City Council just have a representation on there.
Make a motion. We nominate Travis Scott for that.
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Town Manager. Would you like to give us a report? I'm sorry. The mayor's report, I have nothing to report. Any council members' comments?
Welcome to the new board members. Fine job tonight, and to the mayor.
The mayor's done a bad job, Travis has done a great job. All right. Now we got rid of that one. All right, Town Manager, let's have a report from you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I've got my report that I've written and I've passed out tonight, which I'll summarize very quickly. What I'd like to do with the council's consent is Mr. Seiler, I think we still call him new, still breaking him in just a little bit. I'd like to make it a practice of our regular meetings to have Greg report to you. You have your financial statements in the packet. Greg is doing a little bit of a summary sheet, and I'd like him to take anywhere from a minute and a half to maybe 2.5 minutes just to summarize the finances for you. If you have any questions or things that he can chase down and bring back to you even next month or the next day, do that. Typically, I'll summarize that for you, and I don't mind doing that, but I thought it might be a good exercise, one, just to get the council and Greg in direct communication on those matters. And also, I think it's a good time the public can kind of hear what I think is going to be increasingly good news about our budget, if that's all right. Greg, if you want to come forward.
Mr. Manager, I agree with you, and I'd like for him to be heard too as well to the public. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And if y'all have things, and I'm sure Greg will ask the same question, but if you have some other information or summaries that you'd like to see, Greg can put that together for you. And, whether it's by department like he's done or in another format, I think he'd be happy to do that for you.
Thank you, Paul. I think I can do this in 30 seconds. On page 173 of your agenda is the summary that Paul was speaking of. Historically, what you've gotten is much detail in the way of a financial report. Pages 175 through 214, or 39 pages of detail I've summarized into 2 pages. I'd like to present this to you going forward, unless it's your desire to have that detail still. It will save time and paper, and we can, at your request, always provide you with the detail if you so desire. Typically, I think the big concern with most governments is their general fund. So I will highlight that for you this afternoon, which is again on page 173. Just to highlight things that have typically been highlighted for you in the past. Under revenues for the month or year-to-date in our general fund, we have raised, as of November 30th, raised or collected 4.7, almost 4.8 million. If you look at the very bottom of the page, year-to-date, we've spent 5.26 million. That's not uncommon at all in the general fund for this time of year. You have to remember, in the general fund, our primary revenue source is the collection of property taxes. Those property taxes pour in heavily to us during the months of December and January. So my anticipation is next month you'll see our revenue collection outpaces our expenditures. More specifically, we collected 1.33 million and spent 1.4. But what this summary does is gives you year-to-date collection. Any questions?
The only thing I would ask is when you get to the specifics, if there is something that's happened the month prior to our meeting that throws the numbers way out of kilter. For instance, we're 42% into the budget cycle. And I know sometimes we got one-time expenses that make things look out of kilter that are not. But if there is something looming on the horizon that we need to know about that's out of kilter for a different reason than normal course, if you would just bring that to our attention.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tyler, for the record, could you kind of explain to us how the fund balance changed, or why it improved?
As a result of the recent audit that we just underwent, is that what you're asking about? Our fund balance, general fund balance, took a significant leap last fiscal year. If I'm recalling the numbers, I think at the end of 2012 fiscal year was around 8%. That jumped to around 22 or 23% this year. That is the direct result of the town intentionally freezing some projects and or reducing expenditures. I think as a board, you were very much involved in that process to cut expenditures because our fund balance was unreasonably low, unacceptably low, but also our revenues were shrinking or have shrunk since 2008. And so we were historically spending more money and not keeping track of our cash flow, which at the end of one audit caught us really off surprise. So due to intentional efforts by the town manager and department heads to cut expenditures and be a bit conservative with revenue expectations, we find ourselves in a much better position at June 30th, 2013. Paul, anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, I think that's exactly right, and I think you got to understand it is somewhat confusing. I think as Mr. Ashley referred to sometimes government accounting, and it is not always what it appears to be. But when you're taking a percentage of your expenditures and those reduce, this calculation for your fund balance is based on basically your money that's set aside, funds that are there available to be used for other things that are not necessarily budgeted. You have those funds, and if the amount of your prior year's expenditure, your total amount, just goes down without having a penny more in that, it's called that cash side, your fund balance calculation increases because you're calculating it against what you spent your last budget year. And because the last really 2 years, going back to 2012 and 2013, the budget year expenditures have been reduced and reduced again, how much was spent, And we had more that was actually in our fund balance amount. We had two things we were in favor. Those cash reserves went up, but the amount that it was measured against was going down, and that's why it went up in a very quick amount. But that's the calculation. The LGC amount that they asked for, and we verified this, is at 23%. Sometimes you'll see a less generous number in the audits that's there. That's more of an accounting standard. That's about 20%. Another confusing issue, but we try to verify that. You can use either number. I'm happy with either number, but actually the LGC calculation number is the higher 23%. You'll see if you trace it in our budgets, they use a little bit more conservative number that again would be closer to about 20%, and that's fine too. But the LGC calculation amount that everybody kind of cites and refers to, we're at the, actually I think it's a little bit over 23%. And again, that's projected. We feel pretty comfortable with that. That audit report would come, I think, next month maybe, if not February, March.
Hopefully, any
we'll
day
get
now.
the number, but there's been nothing that's changed it since we, I think, gave you notice last month. So we're very happy to be there. It's a great place to be, but again, we can still do better and move that number up.
I'd like to say thank you, Greg. I know you come into, recently and did some changes with other staffing, but thank you for what you're doing. And if we can support or help in any way, just let us know. Thank you, manager, as well, for that.
Yeah, I accept your thank you, but the numbers that have been reported are numbers or actions that took place prior to my arriving. I'm happy to do reporting. The credit goes to town manager and department heads.
Well, big thanks also goes to the town manager and department heads as well for constantly spending and taking care of the budget. So, good job.
Mayor, just quickly, if I can complete my report, it'll take me just about a minute. I want to let you know that the Piedmont Gas meeting, I think there was some reference to it earlier, it is going to take place tomorrow at the Michener Memorial Church on Blunt Street. The council's invited. We expect I'll be there. Mr. Emler will be there on the staff side. I know I've heard from one or two council members who would like to be there. It's going to start at 6 o'clock. Piedmont Gas will have 3 or 4, I think at least, representatives, different areas of their company to try and answer questions and present, some of the options and some of the facts that they know about a possibility of expanding gas. I think they have some limited resources, but they're going to try to explain, I think, as well as they can, what is the formula to expand and then pay for it versus the homeowners' cost. I think it's a tough thing, and I think there's some talk even tonight about, is the formula the same for the last 20 years? And I don't know the answer to that question, but maybe they can tell us tomorrow night. So you're certainly invited to attend that meeting. I know it's been a topic on and off for the last 4 or 5 months here, so we're going to try to move that along tomorrow night. If you recall, we talked a little bit about our strategic plan that was last updated, or actually initially done with the help of Electricities in 2004. The Sanford Holzhauser firm, Mr. Rocky Land in particular, helped the town do that back then. And I have gotten a written request or a proposal from the firm and Mr. Lane again to update that strategic plan, which I think is something we should take a hard look at. His estimated cost was $10,000. Actually, I think it was $9,800 plus a little bit of travel and mileage. So I've rounded up to $10,000. And I do believe that we have several entities that I've already spoken with that would be willing. And if I have the council's blessing, I will go ahead and see if I can get a firm commitment that would share that cost with us. I think those groups that might consider sharing that cost would be Downtown Smithfield, the Tourism Visitors Bureau, and the Chamber, and also Electricity. So that's 4 groups plus ourselves. That's 5 groups that we could find a number that would be, if we break it down to 4 or 5, that gets to be, maybe $1,500 to $2,500 a piece, depending on who can contribute. I think that would be a good expenditure for us if that's our contribution, along with the others, and I think it'd be a plan that would benefit all of us. If I can get your blessing on that, I'd be more than happy to get more of a firm commitment from those entities if there's interest in doing that. And I know the recently appointed council committee on economic development expressed an interest in moving forward on that. If that's fair. The St. Joseph's of the Pines, if you recall, I've had multiple reports saying it was going to close the next month, and then the next month, and then the next month. It finally closed. End of December, a lot of effort there going on. They finally got through it. No real problems, just more bureaucratic kind of delays and changes in rules and things like that. They're very excited about the project. They look forward to getting the renovation started as soon as possible. And if you don't recall, and some new on council may have just kind of read about the project here and there, but I think their initial employment will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 full-time jobs and good-paying jobs when they start and open. And then as they increase their enrollment of adult, senior, daycare users, that number could go up to 55 or 60 full-time employees if they can get to full enrollment. It's a good employment. These are good, well-paying, mid-level jobs. These are not, entry-level, minimum wage. A lot of these, will be a few of those, but a lot of mid-level jobs in there. So I think it's going to be a good shot in the arm for that area.
Mr. Manager, is that all we have?
Yeah, I'm just checking, and yes, sir, it is. And I've got a few meeting dates at the end of that manager report for those who haven't read one before at the end. I try to keep you up to date with what's coming down the schedule pipeline for the next 3 or 4 weeks. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
I have a question, if it's all right, about the Smithfield Crossing. In fact, when are they going to get the lighting? Do we know that, Mr. Ember, for that?
The polls are in. I think the light fixtures are expected in mid-January. Pete, is that right? Hope to start with the erection sometime in late January, early February. And I think, this is going back, talking to Rodney, I think it's going to be a 2 to 3 week job, maybe 3 weeks to get it all up.
I think all the underground is, wiring is already in, Travis. All they waiting for was these, some of the poles and fixtures to get in here. They are due in probably late this week, early next week. So,
Okay. And one other question about that project, and I'll direct it to you, Mayor, for the manager. Can we get a list of what streets are going to be give back to the town as far as responsibility for service? I was speaking with some of the DOT staff, and he informed me that that was going to be one of the things that took place. And I just want to make sure that, those streets that are given back for our responsibility, in fact, are, the maintenance and all that, or where they should be when we're taking back responsibility.
They can keep them all.
Yes, sir. I think the new ones are ours. And Paul, to make it easy, I think it's Industrial Park Drive is the main street that's going to come back to us in about a year or so from the completion of the project.
If we close out of the project, DOT will turn Industrial Park Drive to our city limits over to the township.
We just need to make sure that that's, reasonably, because there's a lot of traffic on that road, and when we receive it, that I don't want to end up like Ventura Drive, is what I'm saying.
Well, the good thing about it, Mr. Scott, is that it may come off of DOT's maintenance, but it goes on the power bill fund, so the town indirectly receives money from DOT to maintain the road.
Is that identified in the plans that's been approved as far as the agreement, or is that still pending?
Yes, an agreement that was up front on this project.
Okay, thank you.
Signed years ago, about 3 years ago.
In that same vein, one thing that we should consider as early as, I'd say, the February meeting is an actual naming of the, we just called them Part A or Road A or Road B, the new loop area, basically.
Industrial Park Drive is required to be renamed Outlet Center Drive. Then we have 2 other roads that can have names.
Right. And that would be the loop part, the newer part, that area, and then the road that cuts behind the restaurants? No, the
road that runs between Partners Equity Drive and the restaurants in the loop.
That's right. And we need to move with that because that's going to require signage, that sort of thing, and it's going to be a little confusing, and we're trying to keep it simple. A few decisions there to be made. We'll try and make a
Do we need a committee for that?
Pardon me?
Do we need a committee or a group of people to help you figure that out?
If council wants to participate in that, staff can arrange meetings to accommodate that and get input, but it's really the bottom line of council's decision.
I think it's important we take that into strong consideration because when the project continues in the next phase, whenever we see that way you don't have 3 names for one road. It's important that we take that into consideration. But what do you guys think?
I think when we get there, we'll pick some names out. I'll look, we have time on that one, I think. The only thing I can say is don't name it Wolfpack Lane or Tar Heel Drive, because all the signs get torn down over and over again. Because I've done that one time, and that was a big mistake. But and if the manager's through with his report.
Thanks, sir.
I'm going to need a motion.
I just have one additional comment, and then
Oh, yes.
do the motion if you don't mind, Mayor. Just something to consider based off of the discussions tonight, would be my recommendation that if the planning department cannot locate a conditional use permit for a property, when it changes hands, if there is no conditional use permit, that it come back before the council. I think some of the issues that we're currently having at the current location of whatever the name of that car dealership is, just across Market Street, with the number of cars and so forth, we could have limited the number of cars. So it's my recommendation that we think about that and consider it, and maybe be prepared to implement that policy. With that, I will make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A to discuss legal matters.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.